Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk fantasy football with you, Cowboy. God, I'm excited, Alex. I can't believe it, Hustler. This is going to be a great season. I'm excited. You're excited. Everyone's excited. It's going to be unbelievable. Hustler, have you heard this story about Zach Wilson? Have you been following up on this? What's your take? I wasn't going to draft Zach Wilson, but now I'm his biggest fan. This guy's a rock star.
Dude, he's about to be the 101 now amongst these young QBs because everyone's going to live vicariously through him.
To tell the audience the story, what happened with them last week, and how his girlfriend kind of spilled the beans on him, which kind of makes me mad because you're like, this is like personal stuff. Why is she opening her mouth up?
Yeah, so I mean, we find out that he's dating his mom's friend or whatever, and I'm sure he was a little bit younger too when he was dating her. He takes two college girls to his like high school prom or whatever. Like apparently, this guy is just a Big Mac. Wherever he's been going, he's got to fight the ladies off with a stick.
And listen, he went to BYU. He's a Cougar, and he was dating a Cougar, right? His mom's friend was at least 20. I didn't say the ages, but I did the math. It's about 20 years older at least. And you guys can Google his old girlfriend. I mean, she's not bad looking. What do you think?
Oh, and she's definitely not bad looking. I mean, every picture I've seen him with, the ladies aren't bad looking at all, So I mean, he's definitely doing something right. It's probably that baby face, like he's got that 15-year-old face or that 12-year-old face, and the Cougars, they just must love it.
Well, he moved up on my ratings, not because of his skill, just because of his offseason antics with the ladies. I love it. I think it's great. Good for the game. Good for the Jets. The Jets don't get any press. Now they're getting press again because of Zach Wilson's behavior. I think it's terrific. And hopefully we'll have a good season this year. We'll see what happens. The Jets can only get better, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And shout out to everyone in the chat. Bogard from the GMM Network, he said, in the words of Austin Powers, she's a man, baby.
Now, the other big news is the Seahawks are talking about getting Jimmy G from the 49ers. I mean, I think that's the most logical place for him to go. I mean, Drew Lock, God bless him. I mean, I don't think he's the answer for any football team. I think he's a good backup. If I was a team and I needed a backup, Drew Lock would be on my list. But Jimmy G going to the Seahawks, do you think it's reality? I mean, they said they're going to deal him at the end of the month. That's the plan in San Francisco.
I think there's no chance in hell that he gets moved to the Seahawks via a trade. I mean, we just never see stuff like that where, I mean, people don't even want to trade like interdivision or interconference, let alone like interdivision, to one of your biggest rivals. I think maybe they have more of a shot of getting like a Sam Darnold if they want to throw a couple bucks, at something, get him over there to compete with the other guys. Or maybe Jimmy G gets, just completely waived by the 49ers, and then the Seahawks come in and swoop with their waiver wire, priority. I'm assuming they have a higher waiver priority because they had such a high draft pick. But I don't see a trade happening. Like, no
the
chance.
Seahawks have Geno Smith and as their other quarterback option and Drew Lock. I think if they don't do any trades, I see them maybe starting half and half, maybe like one guy gets 8 games, the other guy gets 8 games. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, mediocre quarterbacks at the best, but I just don't know if it's going to really matter in Seattle with their whole team, what's going on.
They're trying to go for a top 5 pick is what I assume. So I don't think they're going to be making any moves to improve their team this year.
I do like the draft picks. I think if they can stay healthy, I think they'll be okay. But I think you're 100% right. I don't see anything big happening in Seattle. But if they do get Jimmy G, I'll say it now, he will bring something to the party, and he'll make them, he'll make them a good team. I mean, I just feel that Jimmy G's a really good quarterback, and he doesn't get much respect in San Francisco for some reason because they always have him on the hot seat. But if you put him in a different atmosphere like Seattle and Pete Carroll, I think that could be a good combination.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they can't get any worse because, I mean, they definitely can. They've fallen pretty far from grace, but Jimmy G goes over there. You're at least going to have someone a little bit stable. I mean, Drew Lock, He's going to throw a lot of interceptions. He can't hold on to the ball. And Geno Smith, I mean, he starts talking, to anybody like real weird outside, just out the side of his neck. He's going to get clocked like he did back when he played for the Jets.
Yeah, I remember that very well. And watching Geno Smith, I think he started for Russell Wilson during Monday Night Football last year, and it wasn't a great display of football.
No.
So I'm excited. I get excited about this show every year. I don't know about you, but when camp opens up, you know what that means? Hard Knocks is going to be on HBO. Do you watch? Do you watch Hard Knocks? It's a show that you enjoy. I love it, but do you watch it?
Last year I did not watch it because it was the Cowboys, and I missed like the first week, and someone was like, this shit sucks, and I just didn't watch it. But pretty much every year before that, I was watching it. I guess it's the Cowboys. I just don't like them, but I'm going to be interested to watch the Colts. One of the things that I try to do with Hard Knocks is avoid all the Hard Knocks players, because no matter what their talent level is, they're getting that extra hype for the mainstream notoriety, and people just seeing them. No matter what they see, they're seeing a little bit more in depth on Hard Knocks than any of the pregame. So I usually try to avoid the Hard Knocks guys, but I mean, there's no avoiding Jonathan Taylor. He's still the 101.
No, JT, we'll talk about that soon. But I mean, the thing about Hard Knocks is there's always that one rookie you're rooting for that makes the team. And then when he makes the team, you're kind of watching, you're watching for him during the game. You want that guy to play, you see him on the sidelines, you're rooting for him. So, I mean, you do get involved where you want the underdog to make the team, and it's always that final episode when they bring you into the office and they say, hey, you made it, or no, give me your playbook. You're out of here.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of the first real reality shows. I mean, they have these fake reality shows like the Kardashians and the other stuff you see on TV, but this is like a really, really real reality show.
Yeah. And it's always fun. I mean, the guys that we're watching on the final episode, the ones who are like barely scratching, making the team, those guys are the ones who are not fantasy relevant. So just if you're rooting for like the sixth wide receiver, on their depth chart to actually make the team, you don't have to draft them for fantasy.
Sometimes I've done in the past just as a last pick resort, because I know I'm kind of going to waive that pick anyway later. So I just kind of picked them up just so I can say I had them,
Yeah.
Sentimental reasons, hustler.
Yeah.
So let's talk about ratings. Today, we're going to rate quarterbacks and running backs, and we're going to tell you why our top 10 list is the best around and why you should listen to us and nobody else. And don't go to your draft with those stupid magazines or printouts. When people do that, I get all excited because it's like they have no idea what they're doing. They're just following a list, and they're just, we call them followers, or we call them, people that are looking in the past, and they're not going to win. So listen to us. We know what we're doing. So let's talk quarterback. Let's start with your number one quarterback this year. Who would you take as your number one quarterback going to the season again, this is for fantasy redraft, not for dynasty, not for your favorite super flex. This is a regular league redraft, one quarterback starting. Because I think redraft, if I had to say you could pick any player in a super flex league, and I know you're big on it, hustler, who would be your first player you would take?
1A is going to be Josh Allen. I mean, dude is going to, he's going to flirt with, 4,500 to 5,000 yards. Again, could get around 40 touchdowns. I mean, he's not going to throw a bunch of interceptions. He's going to get like at least 5 touchdowns on the ground. Their defense is stepping up, so he's not having to throw it like crazy. He could be a little bit more efficient than he was in his first couple years. But yeah, Josh,
I'll tell you what I did.
Italian.
I joined a dynasty superflex league, and my first pick was Justin Herbert of the Los Angeles Chargers. I just feel he's younger. He's not going to get hurt as much as Allen. Allen loves to run. How long do you think the running's going to take place for? A couple more years, then he's going to be a pocket guy. He can't run forever. He's going to get destroyed. So I took Herbert. I think he's younger. I just feel that he'll have more longevity in the league. But that's my dynasty super flex pick. I could be wrong. I don't know, but you can't go wrong with either guy.
They're 1A and 1B for me. So I don't even have Herbert ranked number 2. I got him ranked 1B because those guys are interchangeable. But I also think Patrick Mahomes is interchangeable with those guys. It is subjective. I have him as number 3. But if someone came to me and said, I want Patrick Mahomes over Herbert and over Josh Allen, I'm okay with it, especially with Kansas City's defense being as trash as it is. They didn't really do any improvements. They're going to have to throw up 30-plus points.
Juju Schuster's their big sign at wide receiver. Please. So let's talk. In super flex, you always take quarterbacks in the top first round. In the redraft league, what we're going to talk about right now, there's only one quarterback on your that starts per week. That we're going to give you our top 10. My number one guy, and then I'll let you go, is Patrick Mahomes. Not because he's a step above Allen or Herbert or even Burrow. I just feel that he's more consistent and he gets those 300-yard games and he gets 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns every week. And it's just, if you want a guy that's going to be there, and again, I mean, he probably won't go to the 4th or 5th round. I mean, so you can build a team and then pick up Mahomes usually, unless some idiot comes in and takes him in the 1st or 2nd round. If somebody does that, let him have him. There's a lot of good guys out there. But who's your number one quarterback this year in redraft fantasy?
Oh, yeah. Number one, like I said, it's going to be Josh Allen. Then I got Herbert at number 2, and then Patrick Mahomes at number 3. But the thing is, I guess one of the reasons why I don't like playing in single QB leagues too much is because it's too easy. Because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait till the 10th round, and I'm going to grab Tom Brady or Matt Stafford, and I'm going to be perfectly fine, with it. But that's why I don't like one QB league.
And that's the thing. Boring. That's the whole thing. If you could build a great team before you take your first quarterback in your league, and you do it the right way and not take players that are not good, obviously, you want to take the right players in the right time, but you don't have to take a quarterback so quick. And my number 2 guy, Mahomes 1, Josh Allen 2, and Herbert 3. You and I did not talk before the show. That's my top 3 also. I think those 3 guys are on the first tier, I would say, right? You have those 3 guys in the first tier.
I have Mahomes in the second tier. I have Allen and Herbert in the tier.
I totally disagree. You can look at Mahomes' stats. It's unbelievable how many 300-yard games this guy has and multiple touchdown passes. He's money every week. Every week he's so consistent. Allen has these games where he doesn't throw a touchdown pass, or he may not run for 50 yards, or he may not throw for 300 yards. He's not consistent like Mahomes. And you know what? I like the consistency of a player that's going to be there every week hitting 300 yards. I think he hits like 300 yards like over 80% of the time, which it's some crazy stat that he has. I don't have it in front of me, but I had it last year. It was like almost every game he had over 300 yards. I think he'll have over 5,000 yards passing this year, and I already made that bet in Vegas. I think it was 4,900. They had him over under this year, and I had the over. But I think he's going to have a tremendous year this year in Kansas City. I see him having a really good season, especially with their pass defense of their division. It's not the greatest. He'll feast off those people.
Wait, who? Mahomes isn't?
Oh, Mahomes.
No way. Mahomes plays in one of the toughest divisions defensively.
It's tough, but the pass defenses for some of these teams that he plays against.
Well, we got to remember about the moves that happened because Chargers have J.C. Jackson now, one of the best corners in the league last year. Okay. They got him now. The Raiders, they got Rock Ya-Sin. They finally got a solid number 1 cornerback to come over. They got him from Indianapolis. They traded Ngakoue away to improve the secondary. And then Denver, Patrick Surtain and everything they have over there. So I'm not we're literally splitting hairs on me saying Mahomes is a tier 2 quarterback ranked number 3.
I just feel if I had a pick of any quarterback, of course I would take Joe Burrow just because I'm a Bengal fan. But regardless of my alliance with the team, I just feel Mahomes is a safer pick. It's somebody that it's going to just come out every week and do really well for your fantasy team. But I understand. We talked about this first week. You got to go against the grain sometimes. And even saying Justin Herbert, I had him last year. Was he good? Yeah. Was he great? No.
What? But he was great. He threw for 5,000 yards.
Oh, I know. But it just for me, he just I don't know. He didn't come out like I thought he would. He didn't have the touchdown passes. I think he had under 40 touchdown passes.
Well, I mean, yeah, but so did Allen, and so
Yeah.
did
But
Allen, and so did Mahomes.
so let's talk about your number 4. Who's your number 4 quarterback?
Oh, it's Burrow. Gotta be.
I agree. I mean, Joe Burrow, I'm a Bengal fan. I almost had him in my top 3. I probably will take him before Herbert just because I want to get what I want to do is a thing called stacking, and I'll explain to the audience what stacking is. It's when you take 2 players, like I'll take Chase and Burrow in the same team, and that way when they score together, I get like double points basically because I have both combinations. It's when you take 2 players from the same team, basically, right? Like Hustler, that's stacking.
Yeah.
And it's also something, yeah. So I think Joe Burrow's great. I think he'll have a bigger season this year. His offensive line's a lot better this year. As we discussed before, I love Joe Mixon, and having T. Higgins as his second guy. I mean, and Boyd as his third guy. I mean, they're going to be really good this season, and it's going to be fun to watch. Even though their like schedule's a lot harder.
Yeah, and just real quick before I get off of Josh Allen totally, because you kind of used his rushing against him as that being a bad thing. I mean, he had over 700 yards last year, and he had 5 touchdowns. For those who just play in default scoring, that's why Josh Allen was number 1, because of the rushing.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And Joe Burrow, I mean, I love him. Him and Patrick Mahomes, I got them as my tier 2 QBs, so all of them in the top 4.
I'm just saying that Josh Allen is not going to be running the ball 3 years from now like he is now. I mean,
well, but we're talking redraft. We're talking like
we're talking redraft. Yeah, I'm just talking about dynasty. But I agree with you. I think Josh Allen's a great pick. I don't like the weather in Buffalo in December when you're in the playoff situation in fantasy football. That worries me. That's just me talking. So I look at weather. I look at where they play. I love how Herbert plays in Los Angeles. I think that's a big advantage in fantasy. And Mahomes in Kansas City is not the greatest environment either. But if you want to take a player that plays in Buffalo in December and you have playoffs coming up, and it's going to be one of those defensive battles, it kind of scares me a little bit, Hustler. That's all I got to tell you.
It could be. I mean, it could get a little scary here or there. Like, I mean, last year he doesn't have the best game in week 17, but you know what does keep his floor high? 2 touchdowns on the ground and 81 rushing yards. You know, he only had 120 passing yards, but those 2, I mean, especially if we're talking about people who play in 4 points per TD passing, that means that Josh Allen's even that much more valuable. So you got to know your settings.
Yeah, I just always remember those cold 0-degree games in Buffalo where you can't catch the ball because the ball's so cold and you can barely run because you're breathing in cold air. I don't know. It's just I like Allen in the top 3. You don't have to sell me on Allen. I think he's great, but there's other guys I like better. Number 5.
Why would LA be an advantage? I mean, from what Ross was saying, weather-wise, you know, I mean, really, that's the biggest advantage I'm playing in LA versus everywhere else in that December.
Yeah, and it's indoor stadium basically. SoFi stadium's indoors.
And even if it wasn't, it would be like 60 degrees at the cold.
It was 90 degrees today in LA. I have margaritas by my pool today. Number 5, I had this guy number 5 just because he's doing the same thing Aaron Judge is doing this year. Is Lamar Jackson? He's playing without a contract basically, and he doesn't want to sign a long-term deal. He wants to prove himself this year that he's worth huge money, and he's doing it. I mean, he told Baltimore basically, "Don't sign me. I'll be a free agent next year. I can do what I want." So he's motivated. He's motivated to play football. And I think if he's healthy and if and Hollywood Brown's gone, I'm not a Hollywood Brown guy. I thought he dropped way too many passes last year. I think that they'll improve a lot in catching the ball in Baltimore. They got some good receivers there. And like I'm telling you, J.K. Dobbins is back. Baltimore's going to have a good team, and I think Lamar Jackson's going to have a great season. Your thoughts?
Yep, I'm really high on Lamar Jackson this year. And I mean, last year, everything really was working against him. I mean, before the season starts, like all 4 of their running backs go down.
Yeah.
During the season, like 3 out of their 4 starting DBs completely go down. Everything was working against the Ravens last year. And for everyone who doesn't know, we've had Ricky Williams on the podcast, and he's an astrologist. And so he knows all about the signs and everything. And one of the things when we got a little project where we're breaking down all the signs and how it relates to like top 10 fantasy finishes. And when we were talking about Lamar Jackson, talking about the Capricorns, because that's what he is, he was saying the Capricorns, they have high highs and low lows. And when things are really going good, it could be all-time peak, just like we saw in his MVP year. But when things go bad, it's going to be all bad. And I just think that it's going to be a complete 180 from what it was last year. I don't think their entire team gets hurt before the season actually starts.
No, and I had Baltimore winning the Super Bowl last year too. That's how much high I was on them. Just because I really thought Lamar would take him to the promised land, and a lot of injuries killed it. But the Bengals made it. So that was my 5. Number 6, I took Tom Brady. I'll tell you, explain to the audience why Brady should be 6. You say it very well.
Yeah, we don't know each other's lists, and I have Tom Brady at number 6 as well. And if this was a league where, I make these ranks based on just default QB scoring, like 25 yards per reception, 25 yards per point, and all that. And so if it's not like QB premium scoring, I got to put Tom Brady right behind Lamar Jackson, because Tom Brady's going to have no rushing. Lamar may, rush for like 1,000 yards. Tom Brady's going to come out and flirt with 5,000 yards again. He's going to flirt with 40 touchdowns. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. Their defense did not take a step up, so they shouldn't be any better than they were last year, really. Yeah, Tom Brady's going to flirt with that 5,000 again.
Every year I try to say, oh, this is it. This is Tom Brady's final season. The camel's going to break, the last straw. I'm always wrong. I'm always wrong.
If avocados still exist, Tom Brady is going to be there chucking it down.
I'm starting to eat avocados like he is. I'm trying to be healthy like he is. He's the ultimate winner. He's married to a supermodel. He has a fairy tale life. The guy already signed his contract. When he gets out of football, he's going to make more money as an announcer than he's going to make as a football player. This guy has the greatest life ever, and he's in great shape. He has his marbles, and I can't go against him. I much as I want to, I want to go against him. I didn't like the Patriots, and I'm not a big Tampa Bay guy, but for some reason, this guy, wherever he goes, he wins, and there's a reason why. He's a winner.
He's been playing with house money for a while, and
so I'm not betting against somebody. If you get him as your starting quarterback in fantasy, you should hold your head up high. Yep.
And like I said earlier in the show, he's someone. If I'm just in a single QB league, I will wait until the 8th, 9th, 10th round. Tom Brady will still be there, and I will be super fine with getting him as a starter.
And don't even worry about his backup. That's the easiest job in the world, Hustler. If I can get the job as Tom Brady's backup quarterback, and you can make that happen for me, I'll just sit there with a clipboard and do nothing. And
as long as you got at least one hand that works, so you can hold the clipboard.
I can throw the football 50 yards.
Yeah. You can listen to the calls coming in or whatever. You're good. That's it.
That's all I need.
Maybe you need to give him a pat on the butt every once in a while.
Who's your number 7 QB?
Number 7 QB is going to be Matt Stafford.
And tell us why.
It's the offense. They're going to score a lot of touchdowns. He's going to have a shit ton of yards. We see him doing it in Detroit year after year. With Megatron. Megatron and Calvin Johnson. He's never really been blessed with a lot of weapons. And you come in, you have Cooper Kupp. I'm not saying he's the most talented wide receiver he's ever played with, but he has the best wide receiver season like damn near ever, just in his first year. Now they got Allen Robinson coming over there. They may get sneaky and sign OBJ, later to be their third. Cam Akers, as long as he doesn't get hurt in the preseason like he did last year, their run game is going to be on point with him and Henderson. Stafford, I just don't know how anybody could rank him outside the top 10 right now.
My number 7, just because he's angry. And when this guy gets angry, he plays really well. Is Aaron Rodgers. I know Aaron, everybody's saying, he has no receivers, and he has a press conference, and he's like, hold on, guys, I have receivers. It doesn't matter. He could throw you and I the ball, and he would have stats. I know he lost his Devontae Adams. I don't know where Cobb is. His Lazard is, I guess, his number 1 receiver now, but I don't think it matters. This guy will have over 4,000 yards. He'll have touchdowns. He'll be considered for the MVP again this year, just like last year and the year before. I like Aaron Rodgers as my 7, but you know,
I have him at number 11, and I'm not. I mean, as long as if you're a top 12 quarterback, I mean that's really in most. We're talking
yeah.
about 12-team leagues more
Again,
often than not.
if I have Aaron Rodgers as my starting quarterback, I'll be very confident the whole season. I'm not going to lose sleep having Aaron Rodgers. Who's your 8?
Kyler Murray,
Me
someone
too.
who
Mine's Kyrie Murray too.
there we go. Everyone's down on him because of the second half of the season last year. One of the things, if you play in a 1 QB league, you don't need him to be great for the entire season. I mean, it should be easy, to get a guy off the waiver wire. If he gets injured, because he doesn't really stay healthy for all 17 games, usually missing a couple. It's because he runs so much, though, and it's that rushing upside. And the Cardinals, they run the ball in goal-to-go situations more than anyone else in the league. That's why James Conner led, had like 18 touchdowns or whatever. But Kyler is going to get his 5 or 6 on the ground. He always does.
He does, and you know what? Something happened the last few games in Arizona. I don't know what. I mean, he was great the first 10 games. He was like a video game. I mean, you couldn't get him. I mean, and then remember, Hopkins, his best receiver, is suspended for the first 8 games, I think, or 6 games.
6, yeah. And he wasn't there at the end of last season either.
No,
could have been another reason.
Yeah,
why he fell off a little bit.
And we'll talk about. I don't think we'll have time for running backs this week because we're running low on time. But I do love James Conner this year, and I think this year, their other running back has left town, so Connor's like the one-man show again. So
Darrell Williams, who they brought in over now, as their backup.
Yeah, I mean Edmonds left; he went to Miami. But so who's your number 9?
Russ Wilson. Let him cook. Getting over to Denver now. I mean, I don't know if it's the best like cast of weapons that he's ever had. I mean, Tyler Lockett and DK. I mean, that's pretty nasty, but probably the best line that he's ever had since he's been a rookie. And the run game's on point. The run game in Seattle hasn't been the best in the last couple of years.
And Melvin Gordon, everybody's down on Melvin Gordon. His contract's like $2 million a year with incentives. Yeah. I mean, he plays for peanuts, and everybody counts him out every year, and he can catch the ball. I mean, I love Williams also. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, I think Russell is going to have a good season. My number 9 is Jalen Hurts. I feel the Eagles. He finally has his number 1 receiver with A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. I think that's a huge get for him. I think Hurts can run. I think he's going to put the whole thing together this year. I think the Eagles are going to win their division this year. I have high hopes on Hurts, and he's my number 9. And again, if you start any of these quarterbacks, you have a great chance of winning your league. So don't feel you have to draft early. I'll repeat that 20 million times if I have to, but it's very important that you don't go out and take like somebody in the first or second round. Please don't. Who's your number 10?
Number 10, I got Dak. I know that last year, because their defense kind of stepped it up so much that maybe that was the reason you didn't have to throw it as much. But it is going to be awesome to see him just coming back again, year removed, from the injury. And I just feel there's no going wrong with a guy like Dak. He's going to be throwing it a lot. Probably not going to be a 5,000-yard thrower, but easily he's going to be around that 4,500 range.
Dak, yes. I mean, as much as I despise the Cowboys, Dak, yes. I feel without Cooper, though, I think it's going to be a little harder task. I do love CeeDee Lamb. We'll talk about that later. He's definitely a top 10 receiver. And Gallup, too, for Dallas, I think. And Schultz, I think Dak, I agree with you 100% there. As much as I want to disagree with you, I can't. But really quick, let's talk about some sleeper picks in QB. Sleeper picks, as everybody knows, these are players that people don't really talk about. But if you draft them and have them on your team, and there's a good chance they do really well. So sleeper picks are very important during football season, especially later in the draft. So give me some of your sleeper picks at QB.
I mean, if it's just a 1 QB league, a lot of these guys are going to go like undrafted, and I'll just throw out Matt Ryan as a guy who may go undrafted in a lot of these 1 QB leagues. Just super efficient. Everyone, they might be off of him thinking that he doesn't have a high ceiling because of JT. He's always throwing for 4,000 yards. He's always flirting around 30 TDs. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He's pretty efficient. And so Matt Ryan could be one of those guys you literally get him with your very last pick, or you just wait to get him off of waivers, and he's just like a solid QB, like just on your bench if you need it for a bye week or if anything happens injury-wise.
So these are my sleepers. I want your take. Derek Carr, what's your thoughts?
I don't think he's a sleeper anymore. I think he
Okay.
could potentially get drafted inside the top 12 QBs
Really?
because of the hype with Adams.
Tua.
So I guess he'd be a little bit of a sleeper because I know he's kind of like a mid-level, like QB2, like super flex guy. There's a chance that Tua doesn't get drafted, and in a single QB league, he could be a real good.
I'll give you that state level. I'll give you that stat like in late August of where Tua is being drafted and how many percentages are taking him. I agree with you, but he has probably one of the best 2 receiver tandems in the league with Waddle and Hill. I mean, I could play quarterback and have 3,000 yards with those guys.
And Antonio said, "Give me the MILF Slayer for 100, Alex." Zach Wilson is not going to get drafted in these 1 QB leagues. So, I mean, he'll be someone who's like literally free. He has a decent game, game 1, game 2, pick him up.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Why pick a quarterback in the first 10 picks? You can pick up Tua, and Tua's going to have a good season, I think. Tua's going to be one of these surprise guys. If Tua does not perform this season, his league, he's done in the NFL. The league guys know that right now.
I don't think he's going to be done in the NFL, but I know what you mean. I mean, there was high expectations, and when Herbert.
Okay, let's talk about very controversial, but I just want to get your take and see if I should even draft him. Is DeShawn Watson of Cleveland, and as we know, the backup was just traded last week to Carolina. What's your take on DeShawn Watson? Do you think he'll play? Do you think he'll be suspended? I want to hear what you have to say.
I need more time. He's someone that if I'm drafting right now, like we're doing the big best ball drafts right now, I'm just avoiding him. I don't want to take the shot. Last year, I did take the shot on him in a couple leagues, and we know how that turned out. I just don't. I don't want the risk. Like there's no point. If you're in a 1 QB league, there's 0 point to draft Watson. I mean, he'd probably go undrafted in the league. And if in August, we will know more. So if we know he's getting a 6-game suspension or if he's suspended for the year indefinitely, we'll know exactly what his value could be. The rumors that I keep hearing now is 4 to 6 weeks, but I don't know how valid these rumors are because we keep hearing different shit every day.
In all seriousness, I know people get mad at me saying this, but I'll say it. Players have done a lot worse and got a lot less suspensions what he did. I mean, he didn't physically, he did not do anything like grab or hit or, he exposed himself. Yes. But
it may be morally wrong to some people to ask for a hand job, but he was still asking.
he wasn't asking. And, there's comedians I know that talk about it in their act. That's in reality. And, it's what they do when they get massages, but I understand the whole NFL and they want to keep a clean slate. I get it. But I don't know if he deserves like an 8-game suspension. Maybe 6, maybe 4. We'll see what happens. But
I mean, we're talking about people who are like beating women, like literally
exactly. I
mean, getting 8 games, or whatever. So they need to figure this shit out because the punishment needs to start fitting the crime. And even like Calvin Ridley, he's a dumbass for like betting on sports or whatever while he's an active player. But shit, for making 1 bet, you get a year suspension. Like that's fucking insane.
Calvin Ridley, just tell it, and then we'll win the show. But Calvin Ridley went on DraftKings, made a bet during football season, bragged about it. The league found about it, and they suspended him for a whole year.
And bet on the Falcons to win. Like it's not even like he took like a bet that was like likely to win. He bet on his own team to win.
Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so next week we'll talk about running backs. We'll talk about news happening in the NFL. Training camp opens up. I'm excited about that. It's going to be a really fun season. I hope you guys learned a lot about quarterbacks. I'm happy we didn't get to running backs actually because I really want to talk about RBs with you. I'm Ross the Boss, and I love talking sports with you.
Peace out. This is the 420 Fantasy Hustler. Go subscribe at hustlerpod.com.